I'm here using my new YOLO Live setup that I'm quite happy with. And this is Monday morning. And the topic of the week, of course, like every other week, the couple of weeks here, the last few months actually, ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. I get so many questions on this, and I do so many interviews about this. It's mind-boggling. And just a couple of things I want to say, okay? ChatGPT and applications like ChatGPT, let's talk about text primarily here, run of course by OpenAI, but there's other organizations that do this. ChatGPT is vastly interesting. I use it a lot to figure out, for example, how to say things differently. I use an app called Sudowrite, SUDOWrite.com, for editing my text and stuff, which is pretty cool. But generally speaking, I look at this whole thing as another way to search, and I think the very big difference, as I said in my videos before, is we have search engines, which are very useful, looking at links and presenting, going on a fact-finding mission and us finding an answer. And then we have answer engines. And answer engines like ChatGPT and of course Bing, which I've been trying out a lot too, are very interesting, but there's no such thing as the ultimate answer and the ultimate truth. And this is really quite different than search. Search, we can find our own answer, but we know it's not the ultimate or final end-all be-all. It's just one possible way of answering questions. It's kind of like Google Maps. We find a definitive route, then we change our mind, or Google Maps changes the route. It's that sort of thing. But an answer engine that tells me a conclusive answer, right, is kind of mission impossible, and we shouldn't be looking for it. The most important thing is to realize what's actually happening here is that this engine is like a giant parrot or a sort of linear regurgitator, that puts stuff together from a database that we don't know much about, like Gerd Leonhard keeps saying, the AI researcher. We don't know much about the database. It's not real time. We don't know what the criteria of use are. We just know that this machine is putting together sentences and words without understanding the actual meaning. ChatGPT doesn't live in real life. Humans live in real life. Real life is something completely different. It's eyes and ears and sense and smell and emotions and non-data information. This machine doesn't live in that reality. ChatGPT lives in the reality of putting together words like a super fancy, clever sounding parrot. And we tend to anthropomorphize, technology. So we're looking at this saying, oh, it sounds very human. It's like a perfect advice giver. But, it's not, right? Because it is very much a subsection of reality. Some people say maybe 3% of reality can be captured in this way. It's just like your iPhone and your camera can capture 3% of the actual image that you're seeing out there. The human eye sees everything, and it smells and it hears all together, creating an all-seeing, all-sensing environment. That's what we are. Humans don't think with the brain. We don't see with the eye. We don't understand with just the ear. And language makes a very poor reality check. It's just a piece of our reality. And so ChatGPT for me is a fantastic tool. It's something that I'm going to use a lot to find things and to do things. It doesn't replace my own judgment, and definitely shouldn't. The biggest problem with ChatGPT, in my view, is that we can regurgitate and refabricate and re-output all kinds of content in rapid succession, creating more synthetic media, made up stuff. And I think that can be very good. For example, if I'm using an AI to figure out images, to inspire my own thinking and those kind of things, it will not make really creative people superfluous. I think that idea is just out there, right? And watch Gary Marcus on his conversation with Noam Chomsky. I think that's on YouTube. I'll put it in here, but you'll find it on my YouTube channel. It's probably going to be linked, or other places where I publish things. But basically, what we see here is this understanding that this engine is not human, it's not wise, it doesn't understand context, it has no imagination, it looks for patterns, not for meaning. So yes, it has its own powerful application, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen there with Bing and its use of that engine, because Bing, I think, is pursuing a very good path with Microsoft on this idea of saying, yeah, it's another tool that we use. But I really implore everybody using this and putting out stuff to put a red flag everywhere it says this was generated with the help of this AI, because this is the biggest problem that I see all of this is a distortion of truth or presentation as a truth which doesn't exist, right? Even worse, and distorting our worldview even more than it is now. So those are political, cultural, social issues that we have to change. Generally speaking, logic alone is not enough. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you check out my other videos here on the channel, and also, of course, my various things that I've written about the routines and human things, and of course, check out my Instagram channel. I don't do much on Instagram, it's Facebook, but anyway, stop rambling. Here we are, and I wish you a good week and a good start, and see you next week again.